Test, test, test.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2.
Test, 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 test.
Thanks everyone for coming in. We'll start with a brief opening statement from Kelly and up to your questions.
Good morning, everyone. Just want to thank you for coming in this morning here for our wrap-up of the season. I want to begin by just announcing the press release you will have just received with our team hiring Ryan Craig to be the next head coach of the Golden Knights. I want to thank John Tortorella for his time in the organization. What an impact he had, the energy, the enthusiasm. He saved our season. He turned our team around. Our players loved playing for him, and it was a tremendous 30 games that he coached for our organization. John wanted to coach our team again this year. He wants to coach and continue to coach. We really wanted to give this opportunity to Ryan Craig, who's been in our organization for 9 years. We'll do media tomorrow morning with Ryan at 9:30, where we'll introduce him to the media. For today, out of respect to Ryan and his family, we want the discussion to be more about the season. So I won't have a lot more to say about his hiring today, but we'll certainly get into that tomorrow. And again, just to John, thank you very much for what you did for our organization. Just a fabulous guy to work with, the impact he had on the players, the confidence he instilled, the empowerment he gave our assistant coaches, and the contributions that they were able to make during his time here was all part and parcel of why the team had the success that it did have. Just on the playoffs, there's some things that are always of interest at the end of the playoffs. We did have some players playing through some pretty significant injuries. William Karlsson will have surgery today. He broke his wrist in Game 5 in Carolina. Noah Hannafin had an injury, an upper body injury, that if it was the regular season, he probably would have missed 6 to 8 weeks. Braden McNabb, everyone's aware of the injury he had where he took a slap shot to the face. And he had 2 other injuries that probably would have kept any player out of the lineup that he played through in the playoffs, which is just more testament to the warrior that he is for our organization. Mark Stone, I believe, shared with you yesterday the injuries that he had to the tears he had in his adductor. Congratulations, a couple of babies during the series for our families, for Mark and Haley Stone, for Nick and Paige Dowd, who delivered children or babies during the Stanley Cup final. And that's my thoughts just on the injury update. To recap the season, it seems like a long time ago that the season began. I listened to some of the players' media from yesterday, Jack saying, it's September 15th when camp starts. The season was a grind. And I think a lot of teams really felt the difference with the schedule because of the Olympics. It was so compressed. There was just really no time to catch your breath. Injuries were a big part of our regular season. I thought really impacted us, particularly in goal, where Aiden missed 39 games, Carter missed 34 games, and they both missed 22 of the same games. So that's a real tough position to have those type of injuries. But everywhere throughout the lineup, we dealt with the injuries. We were in a tough spot coming in to the final stages of the season. Coming out of the Olympics, we certainly had. I really looked at that as an opportunity where we were going to take a pop, and we weren't able to do that. We made the change that we made. We were able to finish the season, the regular season, strong, get some momentum, get some confidence back, and then I thought really played great hockey in the playoffs. We're extremely disappointed that we didn't finish the series as champions. Tip my hat to the Carolina Hurricane organization, but I really felt strongly that our team was the best team. I really liked the makeup of our team over the course of the year. If you go from this time last year to this time today, we added 8 really good players, beginning with Marner, Lauzon, Sissons, Rasmus Anderson, Dowd and Cole Smith at the deadline, Carter Hart in early November. Those players really had an impact. I like the makeup of our roster. I thought it served us really well in the playoffs. I thought we could play any way that you want to play, and we're really proud of the effort that the guys gave. I've overlooked the Olympics. We had 8 players that played in the Olympics, and when you add up the number of games, I think we played 104 as a team. You add another 6 to that for the Olympians that played in the gold medal game, of course, which we had 5 of, and it was 110 games this season. Aside from the travel, the day-to-day grind, and everything else that goes with being an NHL player. So those are my opening thoughts on the season. Open it up here to questions.
Kelly, with respect to Torts, did this run possibly change any of the timeline as far as maybe looking at bringing him back next year, or do you think this was probably the plan all along to kind of transition?
Well, when we hired John, in, I think it was March 29th, we agreed we would talk at the end of the season, and it didn't really impact anything in any real significant way, Danny. I met with John Monday morning at 8:30 and shared with him my thoughts. Interestingly, he had Ryan Craig as a player. He's got the same opinion of Ryan Craig that most people do, and I know he was disappointed because he did want to coach our team next year, but I know also he's got a lot of regard for Ryan and a lot of respect for the organization. He really enjoyed his time here. He wanted people to know he wants to keep coaching, and I've let all 31 NHL teams, other 31 NHL teams, know that he's interested in continuing to coach, and if he gets that opportunity, I'd be happy for him. I think regardless, this was a real chance for him to, his legacy, his reputation. I think this was the best team that John's had in many years. We talked internally before he got here that it's going to be different here for Torts because it's the best team he's worked with, and it's going to allow him to, to just have so many positive traits that he could, share with our players, right? And I think that's where you really saw the momentum as he spent time with our guys. I think you could really see it and feel it.
Torts talked about how anxious he was to see what this group could do, knowing what they were able to come together and do in the last 2 months. I'm curious, with all the new that's going to be next season with Ryan Craig, what foundation, I guess, was created in these last 2 months that gives you that belief, even with Ryan Craig, that this can happen again?
Yeah, well, I think it was there all along, quite frankly. And, when we made the change, I know I said to you guys that we believed very strongly in our team. If we didn't, we would have just wrote it out. But I think we saw that in our team. When you look at it through a manager's eyes, the makeup of your roster is really important in terms of assessing what you think your potential is or what you're capable of. and we saw that with our team. So, we've got a great nucleus. We've got great leadership. We've got great character. There's lots to go on here over the next couple of weeks around the NHL, not just with our organization, but across the league. And we'll continue doing what we always do.
Now that the season is over, are you planning on granting access to Bruce Cassidy for other teams?
Well, we had a situation where we did grant Bruce permission to speak with another team. That didn't come to fruition, but we'll deal with that on a case-by-case basis.
After getting this close to winning a Stanley Cup, do you view this roster as needing significant changes or tweaks, or you like what you have?
Well, it's the nature of the business that there's always some change, right? And that's really what we are digging into now. We played till whatever it was, the 9th of June or 14th of June, I guess it was. So now we've got the next couple of weeks where we're going to do a lot of work on that. It's impossible to say, but just if you look across the league at this time of year, the draft, the free agency window, there's a lot of business that goes on in the NHL at this time.
I just wanted to clarify two of the questions. On Bruce, is it possible you could seek compensation to hire him?
I'm sorry?
Is it possible you could seek compensation to hire Bruce?
That we would seek compensation? No.
That you could?
No.
Can you? Is that illegal?
I don't know if I'm understanding your question.
I guess, could you ask a team to, offer you a trade or a draft pick?
That's not allowed, nor would we.
Okay, that's what I was asking about. And then to follow up on Danny's question, if you guys had won the Cup, could that have changed the timeline in terms of the transition to Ryan Craig?
I had pretty strong feelings of what I think our organization, where it needs to go next. And, Ryan's been, we'll talk about this tomorrow, but he's been in our organization for 9 years, 6 years with our team, 3 years as a head coach in Henderson, and he's ready to be an NHL head coach. We'll talk more about that tomorrow, but that carried the day, Adam.
McCrimmon back here, if I could. I just wanted to get your feelings on the final. It seems like these series doesn't take much to turn them in either direction. What are some of the areas you thought turned it in the wrong direction for your club?
Yeah, good question, Dave. There's always a number of random events that go on in the course of a series, right? And we had some of those that didn't go our way. When you look at the series halfway through, I thought we were I wouldn't say in control, but I felt really good about where we were at in the series. I think when you look at it in hindsight, the game 2 in Carolina when we led 2-0, it's just when I talk about those random events, Mitch Marner, perfect shot right from the slot to make it 3-0 right off the crossbar, right? Then we score the goal that Ivan Barbashev scores. It's a 2-2 game at that time, and the ruling doesn't go the way that we saw. It would have made it 3-2 with, I think, actually exactly 5 minutes left in the third period. If you come out of Carolina with 2 wins, boy, it's a much different series. When you get to these things are all tracked. The number of posts you hit in the course of a week, a season, a series, and when you get to to game 4 where we were down early, worked our way back to get it tied up after 2. We had the early power play in the third. And, Jack with, just an unbelievably good shot right off the crossbar would have given us a 3-2 lead at that point in the game, right? So there's different things like that go on in the course of a series where they have a big impact, right? They have a big impact. Just the situations I've explained, any of those that go our way completely changes the series. We're playing a good team. They wanted to win the Stanley Cup as well, right? So that's always part of it. You have to, show respect and tip your hat to the people that were able to prevail. But I loved our team. I loved that matchup going into the final. I felt really, really strong about it.
Kelly, obviously Ryan Craig's been on your radar for a while. What went into the decision that Tortorella was the guy in late March and not just Ryan Craig back then?
Well, there's a few things. The nature of the situation. We had 8 games left in the season. We were, potentially on our way to missing the playoffs, depending on how those 8 games went. Torts, very experienced, very comfortable in his own skin, very much going to come in and hit the ground running, I think was part of it. Arguably, I don't feel it would have been fair to Ryan Craig to start his career as a coach that way, head coach that way. The other part of it, Henderson was having a really good year. He was, doing a great job as a coach of that team. We felt that, the finish of the Henderson season is also really important for Ryan's development to coach in the American League playoffs. They weren't in the playoffs a year ago, so I think that's good experience for him there. So those were the things that that we talked about at the time. But for what we were looking for, I remember saying to you guys, we needed a jolt, or we needed whatever that phrase is you want to refer to it as. John was the guy that we thought was the best candidate to do that, and that's exactly what he did, exactly what he was.
Going back to kind of looking ahead, Rasmus Anderson, one of the players that you acquired earlier in this season, just one, how would you assess how his play was from the time of the trade up until now? And the second part of that, looking ahead to July 1, has conversations, I guess, changed as far as since the passing of Claude Lemieux? How much has that impacted, I guess, discussions or negotiations?
Yeah, good questions. So, Rasmus, I think, spoke yesterday to you. I didn't see his comments exactly, but had it explained to me that he was, evaluated his own season as being a little bit less than he expected. I think he's a really good NHL defenseman. We, wanted to acquire him for a long time. I think he's going to be like a lot of players that come here. I can give you a list where once you're settled in, once you've got your house, once you're with an organization a little bit longer, it's a little bit easier to get to the game that you have. He's a pending unrestricted free agent. We've got a few of those, right? There's probably, without counting them up, there's likely half a dozen guys that are going to be free agents on the 1st of July. So between now and then, we'll work on that. With respect to the passing of Claude Lemieux, what that does to Rasmus's representation, Claude always worked hand in hand with the European, his counterparts in Europe, which would have been involved with Rasmus along the way, of course, because he's from Sweden. So that's where our dialogue will continues with his counterparts there.
Kelly, what challenges do you kind of foresee to kind of get those things buttoned up in terms of the free agency that you have?
In terms of getting the
team built after what all
the
free agents you have.
Yeah. Well, that's what you're working on, right? So it's salary cap management, it's asset management, it's a clear understanding of what is going on around the league, what type of opportunities might be available. It's an honest, thorough evaluation of your own team, your own personnel. Those are, that's where our heads are at now. Our pro staff will be, coming into Vegas on the weekend. Our amateur staff's coming in, of course, for the draft. They're getting in this weekend as well. So it's a lot of meetings, a lot of discussion between general managers at this time, and we'll know more in a couple of weeks.
You said you're always trying to make this team better. I'm just wondering if you would be able to share some of those off-season priorities, maybe some gaps or holes that you would like to see filled throughout this off-season.
Well, the big thing will be to get make our decisions on UFAs, work towards retaining the players that we want to retain. I'm talking about UFAs. Pavel Dorofeev's an RFA, which means we retain his rights, but clearly he's a player that's really blossomed. So getting clarity on all of those players in turn then dictates what possibilities or what opportunities you may or may not have as you move forward. In terms of real areas of weakness on our team, I really liked our team. I really liked our team. It's going to look different. It just does every year. That's our business. But I think over time I've always had a real good understanding of what the team needs to look like to have a chance to win. And we'll it's not going to be the exact same 25 guys, but we'll work to get there again.
Kelly, just to follow up on that, as you watch the Stanley Cup playoffs, especially late in the postseason, you said you liked your team, you liked the makeup. How are you viewing it through your lens in terms of evaluating late in the season in terms of what the team may need next year, as opposed to, man, I really like what's happening in this moment with respect to free agency and as you roster build?
Yeah, well, there's no better evaluation of players on your own team. You know, we played 6 games against Utah, 6 games against Anaheim, 4 games against Colorado, 6 games against Carolina. You know, there's 4 organizations you know inside out. You've seen what their players do, and you know the toughest time of year, the toughest competition. There's a big difference between evaluating players in the regular season and evaluating them in the playoffs. So it's challenging as a manager because you want to just watch the hockey for what it is, the Stanley Cup playoffs, and yet you know the calendar, the days keep knocking off as you get closer to the draft and free agency. So, I guess for me, I like to focus on the task at hand as best I can, and then you realize once it's over, you are jumping on a moving train. You got to get to work in a hurry, and that's what we're doing.
Kelly, do the Olympics have an impact on your club?
Well, start with being very proud of the fact we had 8 Olympians. William Karlsson would have made 9. I touched on it in my open. I just we sit here, you almost, it seems like forever ago that we played Utah. It seems like forever ago we made a coaching change. Well, same with the Olympics. It seems like it was a long time ago, but just that body of work, regular season, Olympics, playoffs for those players was a lot. It was a lot. But I mean, the other thing with all of those elite events for me, they make players better. And I think I might have said at the time I'd way rather have 8 players in the Olympics than no players in the Olympics, right? So it's a good problem to have, and it's a good problem to have when you're playing in the middle of June also, right?
Kelly, we asked a couple of the players yesterday about that RotoWire poll, that nationwide poll.
So you've done a little homework on your poll today, hey?
Well, I was wondering your thoughts.
I was wondering
on that
as well.
As the most hated team among the fans, just your impressions of why that is. And Jack was saying that there's no player that has a no trade deal to Las Vegas.
Well, it'd be just real easy for me to defer to Jack. I listened to his answer, and I think he's right. I mean, polls are polls, right? I'm not concerned about that. I think people have a hard time explaining why we win as much as we do. We've been to the Stanley Cup Finals 3 times in 9 years, and it's interesting. We went in 2018, 2023, 2026, and what that tells you is that's 3 completely different teams. It's not like we went 3 times in 4 years with 90% of our nucleus remaining the same over the period of time. So, you've heard it all the way through those 9 years, all the expansion rules were so favorable. Well, Seattle Kraken had the same expansion rules, right? And everybody says, oh, well, everybody wised up because of how well Vegas did. Well, I would argue that Seattle had almost 3 years to get ready for expansion. We had 11 months. When Seattle did expansion, the cap pressure across the NHL was completely different than it was when we did expansion. So, I think, some people like to explain, the first part of our history based on that. Then people think it's because we had Mark Stone get back surgery just for fun in February, right? And that's why. And it just for me it's jealousy, and it's people don't want to are uncomfortable admitting that we've done a hell of a job. That's what I honestly think, Chris. Players love playing here. You talked to our players yesterday. Our players love playing here. Jack made the point there wouldn't be a player in the NHL that had Vegas on their no-trade list. So the organization treats their players fantastic. The organization gives our players every resource to be the best that they can be as a person and as a player. And it's a great city to live in, as you all know. It's easy out here with with traffic, lifestyle, all of those things that go into it. But all those players would tell you the number one thing is they have a chance to win. They have a chance to win. So when you hear that a person from another organization is interested in coming to Vegas, the first reason they're interested in coming to Vegas is because we win. That's why they want to come to Vegas. Because if that wasn't the case, you can go back in the history of, you know, tax-free states and sunny locations of some teams that struggled for years and years and years that nobody wanted to go to. So first and foremost, people come here because we try to win. They like being on teams that try to win. There's players in the NHL that are on teams that I don't think the players are confident the team will win. So that's that for me is how I see it.
Kelly,
Not going to apologize for it, Chris. You know.
can you offer your assessment of the goalie situation?
Yeah, so the goalie situation, I've said many times to you guys that our goaltenders struggled this year. And I would say to you guys, I don't like our goaltending, but I like our goalies. I made that comment many times. And, you know, for me, injuries were such a big part of it for both guys. And it's, you know, it's tough for any skater to miss a significant length of time, to come back and be, you know, right up to speed as quickly as you can be. When you look at the margins of being an NHL goalie, missing time coming back, it's just that much harder. Aiden had kind of got in a run before John came here. I think he'd played maybe 12 in a row. John got here. He went right away to Carter. So, you know, Carter, you know, to me was tremendous and you know, a big part of why our team advanced the way that we did. You know, Aiden is a really good goaltender that had a disappointing year. I think he would tell you that. I would tell you that. But I don't think it's because he's not a good goaltender. And, you know, he only played 2 games for Torts, and I thought he played really well in both games. He played the one game in Seattle where the game was all but over. The puck hit the camera hole, and the guy put it in an empty net. We ended up losing that game in, I think, a shootout or overtime. But, yeah, I mean, when you've been in the same dressing room and in the same organization as a goaltender that won you a Stanley Cup, you know, that still carries some weight in my eyes.
Last call for questions. Next we'll go Danny. Back again.
To kind of follow up on that, Kelly, with Carter playing as well as he did to end the season, you have Akira as an RFA. Is Aiden still a piece of this organization going forward, do you see?
Yeah, those are all things we're going to work through, Danny. And I'm glad you mentioned Akira. He had more starts than any goalie on our team this year. You know, which again, some of these things seem like they were a long time ago. But those are all things that's what we're working on.
With Ryan Craig making the jump from Henderson to here, is there any players from the Silver Knights potentially that are going to play a factor in the makeup of a roster next season?
Yeah, these are probably tomorrow questions, but I will say to you, I think there's, you know, it's just the timing of it, right? There is some value in that he knows those players as well as he does. There is some value in that they know him as well as they do. You know, I think that there's occasions where the coach that comes up from the American League to the National League, because of those relationships, because of that, you know, deep inside knowledge of what a person and a player really is. You know, I remember, you know, this would be a few years ago when Bruce Boudreau came from Hershey up to Washington, and a lot of players that he had in Hershey ended up playing in Washington. John Cooper, when he went from the American League to Tampa, a lot of those players that he had in the American League became NHL players. So, yeah, that's, you know, it's a reality of the situation that they know each other much better than if he was coming in from outside the organization.
There's been some suggestions that you could potentially get your second-round pick back that was forfeited from the second-round situation. Is that possible? Are you working towards that? Is that an option?
Yeah, that's business between you know, the National Hockey League and ourselves. We're not going to be able to comment on that. So that's how I would answer that.
Just more July 1 stuff. Are you expecting teams to possibly submit an offer sheet for Pavel at this point? Or
I can't tell you how other 31 teams are going to react, Danny.
And as far as the timing, as far as Bruce, if I can ask, just was that,
I'm sorry, I missed you there.
Yeah, Bruce, as far as receiving the permission from the one team, was that recently or was that, you know, before the final ended?
It was a little past midway.
We just heard you give a passionate defense of your team and the organization that you had. I know before the final I had asked you about reflecting on everything you guys have done. Is there time? I know you have your free agency coming up, the offseason coming up. You said you don't really like to do it, but 3 finals in 9 seasons. Do you and George and the organization maybe able to sit around and just think about what you've done and kind of not celebrate it, but just reflect on how impressive it has been?
Well, not like we should. We're our complete focus right now is on the upcoming season, right? It was, reminiscing is best for high school reunions, Adam, I think, right? And, big picture, and I think I've touched on it here a little bit. Yeah, you're darn right we're proud of what the organization has done. We love working for Bill Foley. We get every resource from Bill for George and I that we need to be successful. And I remember, it would be in July of 2016 when George reached out to see if I was interested in coming to work for him. It was one of the questions I asked. Will we have the resources to win? Because it's not true in every NHL city, I believe. And I remember asking George that, and I remember him being confident that it was. And I remember then, kind of by, maybe that November, just how strongly we both felt. Yeah, we are in a heck of an organization here. And that was, before we drafted a player or whatever, but that's just the feeling that we had from, working with Bill, with the confidence that I had in George, and I think in terms of him in turn with me, that we were going to be able to do it right.